Look, most people hear the number $1 million and instantly feel two things at the same time: excitement and disbelief. Excitement because it sounds like freedom, like the kind of life where money stops being a daily stress, and disbelief because deep down it feels far away, almost unrealistic, like something reserved for people with high incomes, lucky breaks, or insider knowledge. But here's the truth that almost nobody explains clearly. $1 million is not magic. It's not luck. It's not even about being good with money. It's about understanding a simple system and then giving that system enough time to work. And once you actually see how the math plays out, it doesn't just change your bank account. It changes how you think about every dollar you spend, every decision you make, and every year you delay getting started. So in this video, we're not doing motivation. We're not throwing random advice at you. We're going to break this down step by step, in the simplest way possible. 3 different paths, 3 different timelines, same starting point, $0, same ending point, why $1 million, and one powerful question that connects all of them. How much do you actually need to invest every single day to make that happen? Because that's where most people get it wrong. Some people think you need thousands every month from the start. Others think you can just invest a little here and there and somehow magically reach $1 million. Both are wrong. The real answer sits right in the middle. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. So before we talk about daily numbers, before we talk about strategies, let's talk about the destination itself. $1 million. Why is that the number everyone keeps coming back to? Why not $500,000? Why not $2 million? The answer comes from something called the 4% rule. It's one of the most widely used retirement strategies, backed by decades of real market data, and the idea is simple. If you have $1 million invested in a diversified portfolio, you can withdraw 4% of it every year without running out of money. That's $40,000 per year. Money that comes to you whether you work or not. Break that down monthly, and it's about $3,333 hitting your account every single month. Now pause for a second and really think about that. $3,333 showing up, without a job, without clocking in, without asking permission. That alone changes how you live your life. And it doesn't stop there, because most people don't rely only on investments. You also have things like Social Security. Add that on top, and now you're looking at $5,000 or more every single month. That's not luxury billionaire life, but it's something much more important. Stability, control, freedom, the ability to say no to things you don't want. That's why $1 million matters. It's not about the number itself. It's about what that number does for you. So now you understand the destination. The real question becomes, how do you get there from zero? And here's where things get interesting, because no matter which timeline you choose, the tools stay the same. You don't need complicated strategies. You don't need to pick individual stocks. You don't need to time the market. All you need is a simple mix of index funds, one that tracks the overall market, one that focuses more on growth, and one that's aggressive, targeting high-growth sectors. Same 3 building blocks, used differently depending on how much time you have. So let's start with the easiest version, the one almost nobody respects enough, the 30-year plan. This is where time becomes your biggest advantage. When you have 30 years, you don't need to take extreme risks. You don't need to chase hype. You don't need to constantly adjust your strategy. You just need consistency. The portfolio stays balanced, mostly broad market exposure, some growth, and a small aggressive portion. Nothing crazy, just steady compounding. And now comes the number that surprises almost everyone. To reach $1 million in 30 years, you only need to invest about $6 per day. That's it, $6. Think about how small that number feels. It's less than what most people spend without even thinking. Coffee, snacks, random purchases that don't even matter a week later. But when that same $6 is invested every single day, something powerful starts happening behind the scenes. At first, it feels slow. Year 1, you barely notice anything. Year 3, it still doesn't feel exciting. Year 5, you might even question if it's working. But then something shifts. Around year 10, your money starts to grow faster. Around year 15, the growth becomes noticeable. Around year 20, it accelerates. And by year 30, it explodes past $1 million. And here's the part that changes everything. You didn't invest $1 million. You didn't even invest close to it. You only put in around $65,000 of your own money. The rest, over $900,000, came from the market, not from you, from time, from compounding, from staying consistent long enough for your money to start working harder than you ever could. That's the real power here. You're not building the wealth directly. You're setting up a system that builds it for you. But here's the problem. Most people don't think this way. They underestimate time. They want results faster. They want progress now. And because of that, they give up the one thing that actually makes this easy: patience. So now the question becomes, what happens if you don't have 30 years? What happens if you say, I don't want to wait that long? That's where the trade-off begins. Because when you reduce time, you increase pressure. When you shorten the timeline, you increase the cost. And that's exactly what we're about to see. Next up, now let's move to the 20-year plan, because this is where things start to feel real for most people. 30 years sounds too far. 10 years sounds too intense. But 20 years sits right in the middle. Long enough for compounding to still work, but short enough to feel achievable. And here's what changes when you move from 30 years to 20. The goal is still the same. $1 million. The starting point is still zero. The tools are still the same simple index funds. But the strategy shifts, because now, time is no longer your biggest advantage. It's still helpful, but it's limited. And when time is limited, your money has fewer opportunities to grow on its own. Which means one thing: you have to do more of the work yourself. So the portfolio becomes slightly more aggressive. Less weight on the broad, stable market. More weight on growth-focused investments. More exposure to higher returns, but also higher volatility. That's the trade. And now here's the number that defines this entire plan. To reach $1 million in 20 years, you need to invest about $22 per day, around $660 per month. Now this is where it stops feeling like spare change and starts feeling like a real decision. This is where discipline comes in, because $22 a day means you're choosing your future over your present, again and again. It means skipping things you don't need. It means being intentional with your money. It means thinking long-term when everything around you pushes you to think short-term. But here's what makes it powerful. It works. After 10 years, you're already approaching $200,000, and by year 20, you cross $1 million. Same destination, different path. But now look at what changed behind the scenes. In the 30-year plan, you only invested around $65,000 of your own money. In the 20-year plan, that number jumps to about $160,000, more than double. The market still helps you, but now you're carrying a much bigger part of the weight. You've essentially bought back 10 years of time, and the price was an extra $95,000 out of your own pocket. That's the hidden cost of speed. Time is no longer doing most of the work. You are, and now, we move to the plan that most people are curious about. The one that gets clicks, the one that sounds exciting, the 10-year plan. This is the fast track, the aggressive version, the idea of going from $0 to $1 million in just a decade. And yes, it's possible. But there's something you need to understand before you even look at the numbers. This plan is not easy. It's not casual. It's not something you try and see what happens. This is a commitment, because when you only give yourself 10 years, compounding doesn't have enough time to carry you. The market can help, but it can't do most of the work. So guess who has to step in? You do. The portfolio becomes highly aggressive, heavy focus on high growth sectors, higher expected returns, but also much higher risk. And now the number that changes everything. To hit $1 million in 10 years, you need to invest about $120 per day, around $3,600 per month. Let that sink in. This is no longer about cutting small expenses. This is about serious income, serious discipline, and serious consistency. Over 10 years, you personally invest around $438,000, almost $500,000 out of your own pocket. And yes, you still reach $1 million. But now look at the breakdown. The market helps, but not nearly as much as before. In the 30-year plan, the market gave you about $14 for every $1 you invested. In the 20-year plan, it dropped to about $5.50. And in the 10-year plan, it's only around $1.50 for every $1 you put in. That's the real story. That's the part most people never see, because this isn't just about reaching $1 million. It's about understanding what it costs to get there, in time, in effort, and in sacrifice. All three plans reach the same destination, but they are completely different lives. One is slow and effortless, driven by time. One is balanced, requiring discipline. And one is intense, demanding high income and commitment. So don't ask which one is best. That's the wrong question. The real question is, which one fits your life? Which one can you actually stick to 4 years without quitting? Because in the end, consistency beats everything. Not strategy, not timing, not luck. Consistency. And the earlier you start, the easier every version becomes. Because time is the one asset you can never get back. But it's also the one asset that makes everything else easier if you use it right.